Today we're going to talk about 5 fish that I wish they didn't sell at big box stores and 5 alternatives that I think are a much better option. I have nothing against the following fish. I think a lot of them are pretty cool. Some of them are really beautiful. Most of them get really freaking big. For the most part, these species aren't to be kept by beginners or even most intermediates. I myself probably plan on never keeping most of these species. Even if you do a lot of research, they're probably not for you. The vast majority of individual home hobbyists, these are not good fish for you. There are certainly some individuals and larger businesses and corporations and aquariums that can keep these fish in a proper setting, but for the most part, when these are being sold at big box stores, I don't understand why, and I feel as if there's a lot better options out there, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. The Iridescent Shark. Now, I've seen these guys at local fish stores that I've been to, mostly big box stores. I can't say that I've seen them in any like small local fish store, and you usually see them at a few inches. And they look cool as heck. They're reflective, they look like a big shark body. They're not a shark, by the way. They're actually a pretty shy schooling fish that can reach up to 4 feet in the wild. Even in an aquarium, you're talking about 20 plus inches, which equals easily hundreds of gallons of water. So most people walking into a Petco, PetSmart, Pet Supermarket, Walmart aren't gonna be that type of home aquarius. I know I'm not. A much better option, in my opinion, is gonna be a Redtail Shark. Now, this, once again, is also not a shark. It's more in the carp family, but they get to a pretty good size. They look like a shark. They don't have that iridescent look, but they have that cool, black and red tail. These guys should top out at around 6 inches or so and need a 4-foot aquarium. So a 55 gallon is minimum, but a 75 gallon is more ideal, and they're semi-aggressive. So they can go into the community aquarium, but not with fish that have long fins or are easily getting picked on. They're gonna do better with larger tetras and fish similar to their size. These guys aren't a schooling fish, and you're gonna wanna keep just one, as they can be aggressive to each other. Next on the list, in keeping with the shark family, is the bala shark. Now, the bala shark isn't gonna get as big as an iridescent shark, and I will admit that there are probably more people that could successfully keep bala sharks than could successfully keep iridescent sharks, although ideally, a bala shark, once again, is not a shark, it's in the carp family, and it is a schooling fish, so ideally you want to have a school of 5 to 6. Once again, you're going to need 100 plus gallons of water, so it's possible to keep them in a home, but once again, if you're just walking into the store to start your 20-gallon aquarium, 30-gallon aquarium, even a 55-gallon, bala shark, not the best option. These guys pretty much need a 4-foot tank right off the bat, and they're gonna need like a 5-foot tank, 6-foot tank relatively quickly, so make sure you consider that before purchasing. I think a much better option, and in my opinion, would be a Bloodfin Tetra. Now, this is significantly smaller than the bala shark. Bala shark, you're looking at 6 inches or so. Bloodfin Tetra is gonna top out around 2 inches. With your school of bala sharks topping out at around 10 inches each, the Bloodfin Tetras are gonna max out at about 2 inches. But in my opinion, I've kept them before. They're really cool. They're almost kind of a see-through body, and they have these red accents. So they're much better for a tank, 20, 30 gallons. They don't need that length like the bala shark's gonna need. If you want something larger, I'm gonna give 2 options. So Bloodfin Tetra is option number 1 in opposed to the bala shark, and option number 2 instead of a bala shark is going to be a Synodontis petricola or Synodontis lucipinnis catfish. Now these guys are really cool. They are a schooling fish, just like the Bloodfin Tetra and the bala shark. So you're going to want probably 3 plus, if not 5 or 6 ideally, and they're going to get 6 inches long, and they're going to glide through the water and give you the coolest swimming action you've probably seen in any fish. They are more expensive, but like I said, if you want to keep it on the cheaper side, Bloodfin Tetra instead of the bala shark, and if you want to spend a little more money, then definitely go with those petricola or lucipinnis instead of the bala shark. Number 3 on this list is the common Pleco. I'm going to briefly cover them because you may have heard about them before, but these guys get to be absolute monstrous. I'm talking about like a 2-foot long tank. So when you buy them to be your cleaner fish for your new tank, you're quickly overwhelmed by this monstrous thing who's actually pooping more than it's doing any cleaning. And that's the biggest thing. More so than this common Pleco is gonna outgrow your tank so quick, you're not gonna be able to find a home for it, okay? You're not gonna be able to sell it for money. No one wants it. It's not even doing the job you think it's doing. It's not even really a cleaner fish. It may eat some algae at first, but eventually it's just gonna be a hungry hippo in your tank, and you're gonna be wishing that you never got it. Instead, much better Plecos to consider. a bristlenose Pleco. They top out about 5 or 6 inches. The males get these cool little phalanges on them, unless you're aquafunk.
There's 2 reasons why it's the ugliest fish in the hobby, and that is not only that the front of it is got those tentacles on it. The male bristlenose Pleco's got those tentacles on it. It's the stuff of nightmares. If the predator had a pet fish, it would be that. But not only is it ugly that way, but it's ugly that way. When it's sucked on the front of your glass, you gotta stare at it just.
I think a Pleco, in my opinion, should be a one-of in every kind of like community tank. The bristlenose Pleco is a great candidate. Other Plecos to look at instead of the common Pleco is going to be a rubber lip Pleco or potentially a clown Pleco. All these are fairly cheap, should be under 10 bucks. So they're not breaking the bank, and they're way, way, way better than the common Pleco, which is just a monstrous tank that is really very little benefit. Number 4 on this list is the Pacu. Now, these guys are freaking a big, solid, meaty vegetarian, actually. But these guys, they can be kept in the home aquarium, but once again, you're talking about ideally 100 gallons plus. These things, you get them and they're fairly small, and they get big so quick, and they get so thick that they're tank busters. They literally are tank busters, and they will and they can break your tank. Just like the other fish on this list, I don't think the Pacu should be sold at big box stores. If someone, a home aquarist out there, wants to purchase one and they have the proper accommodations for it, then talk with a local fish store, make accommodations to be able to purchase one. But the fact that you can just walk in and grab a Pacu and stick it in your 10-gallon, 20-gallon, 55-gallon community aquarium with no real long-term plan, I think is not setting people up for success. A much better fish, in my opinion, and this is one that's still going to need some planning and some research, and a fairly decent-sized tank. We're talking about 55, probably 75 ideally, if not even larger long-term, and that is the silver dollar. Now, these guys are kind of like the body shape like a Pacu, where they get that nice round shape. If they're only a 5-inch long fish, which doesn't sound long, but they look bigger than a 5-inch fish because they're so round. So they're a decent-sized fish. They don't get nearly as thick as a Pacu, but they're really beautiful, and they're much better suited for the home aquarists. So in my opinion, a much better option than a Pacu. What species do you think shouldn't be sold in big box stores? Let me know in the comments below, and if there's an alternative that you think is better, put that in the comments below so people can see. Before we talk about the next fish that I wish they didn't sell at big box stores, I want to talk to you guys about 2 fish that do get sold there that I think sometimes end up in less than adequate conditions, and that's the Goldfish and the Oscar. And I'm out there buying and selling tanks a lot, and that's how I built the fish cave, and I see a lot of how the average Joe keeps their fish. And unfortunately, I see a lot of Goldfish crammed in a 55-gallon tank or less, which I would recommend. Goldfish are beautiful. I hope to keep some someday. Definitely do some research. Get a larger tank or put your goldfish in a pond. And with an Oscar, same thing. Oscars are amazing. The wife actually is in love with them. We're probably going to end up keeping one day. But keep in mind that even a single Oscar is going to need at least a 55, 75, and 2 Oscars, you're probably looking at a 125. We've talked about some monsters on this list, but this next one is a giant beast, and it's the Redtailed Catfish. Now, I think this fish is beautiful. I think it's gorgeous, and if I ever own a pond, I'll probably end up owning a Redtailed Catfish. But I don't own a pond, and I have no plans of owning a Redtailed Catfish anytime soon. You can get them at a local fish store. I've seen them at the big box stores. They're like this big, they're cute, they're awesome, and they're freaking gonna grow to be this big, if not much bigger, very soon and eat everything in your tank. This fish can reach 5 feet in the wild and even top 40 inches in a home aquarium. So even, plenty of people say, oh, I'm gonna get one, I'm gonna have a plan for it when it gets bigger. I'm telling you, this fish especially, and most of the fish on this list, even if you have a plan, you're gonna try to donate it this and there, it's probably not worth it. The amount of big fish that I see on Craigslist where people are trying to sell or even give away is astronomical. People think they can get a bunch of money for their big Pleco and large Pacu, but the reality is no one else wants them either because no one else has a space to properly care for them. So before you go out and buy a Redtailed Catfish, consider a striped Redtail Catfish. They're a pretty cool species that gets to about 7 inches, which is pretty significant for the home aquarium. They're nocturnal, they're pretty peaceful, they like their caves. The striped Redtail Catfish is much better suited for the home aquarium than the Redtail Catfish, so definitely do some research, take a look at it, and consider it. If you do keep some of these species of fish, and they do outgrow your aquarium, whatever you do not release them into the wild. Consider options. If you can't find a home for them, consider even things such as euthanasia over release them into the wild. I hope you guys learned something today. I know that years ago I kept a bottle shark and a common Pleco in a tank that was way too small and didn't have success. That's why I wish big box stores didn't sell these fish, because I think they're setting people up for failure instead of success. Let me know what your opinion is down in the comments below. If you guys want to check out more Fish Cave videos, you can do so right here. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Stay positive and stay passionate.